Hello, this is an introduction to one of our two properties in Tanzania. This is Hodi Hodi Ruaha Safari Bush Camp. Hodi Hodi Bush Camp is a new arrival in Tanzania's relatively undiscovered southern circuit in the Ruaha National Park. We have canvassed and thatched rooms on teak decks, 200 private acres of pristine bush and wide views over the national park, both intimate and casual for couples, parties or exclusive groups of up to 18 people. Hodi Hodi Bush Camp in Ruaha is in a remote area of southern Tanzania. Thankfully, that means that we don't get convoys of tourist vehicles rushing about to find animals. For your international guests that fly into Dar es Salaam or Zanzibar, getting to camp is a long 2-day road trip which can consume days of their holiday. It is a good road option with an exciting trip, either 2 days from Arusha in the north or Dar in the east, with interesting stop-off points en route which can be arranged with the local tour operators. Or you can fly direct either using the southern circuit via Nyerere National Park and on to Ruaha, or direct to Ruaha from either Dar, Zanzibar or Arusha, with one of the local airlines operating light aircraft. There are 3 main airline carriers, all providing regular scheduled flights that depart from Dar or Zanzibar at around 7 o'clock in the morning. These are Auric Air, Safari Airlink and Coastal Aviation. Because these flights leave early in the morning, it's very likely that your international guests will need a stopover the night before in a hotel in either Dar or Zanzibar. There are several international recognized hotels in both locations providing a good night's sleep and a freshen up after a long-haul flight. Airport taxis are a fixed price and will even come and pick up guests early the next morning to get them back to the airport for an early departure to the bush. These airline carriers can either drop your guests in Iringa, which is a 2-hour drive to camp, or Musembe airstrip in the Ruaha by the Rangers Post. Let us know which airstrip they land at and we'll dispatch a Land Rover to go and collect them. We prefer landing in the park at Musembe because you go straight off onto a game drive before returning at the end of the day to camp. After staying at Hodi Hodi Bush Camp, you could fly them back to Zanzibar to stay at Hodi Hodi Zanzibar beach houses. Our driver there will collect them from Zanzibar Airport and transport your guests to us on the Matemwe beach for part 2 of their holiday, a relaxing few days on the beach before returning back home. Hodi Hodi Ruaha is conceived, designed, built and managed by friends and family, with a mutual deep African heritage and a collective love of East Africa, plus a long-term fascination with Ruaha in particular. Its remoteness and the lack of roads or development induces excitement, a pioneering feeling of exclusive adventure and personal exploration. And it is beautiful country, painted with vast ever-changing landscapes of raw beauty and glorious seasonal variation, reminding us of how African safaris were long ago. Lovingly built by hand with the help of local villagers from Makifu, our nearest village behind the mountain at the back of the camp, our camp is built entirely from locally sourced materials. We've designed our small little camp specifically to offer privacy and remoteness while being embedded in nature and without making too many changes to the wild bush. Not a single tree was cut down to make way for the build, and we made use of the natural layout of the land to locate our tent huts, main bar and restaurant, as well as the back-of-house facilities. After much off-road driving, we located the perfect spot, in the cleft of a valley that looked out over Ruaha for as far as the eye can see, and enjoying the wonderful African sunsets. The picture on the right is an aerial view of the restaurant and bar that shows our levelling eating area terraced with a lower terrace for the fire pit and sundowners. Our plunge pool is to the right. The piled up rocks around the terraces are elephant defences. We have several resident herds who visit our waterhole, which is just out of sight at the bottom of the picture on the right, along with many animals. The picture on the left is the reception where guests are greeted on arrival and get allocated their rooms and have an explanation of our responsibilities towards the wildlife and the local communities and what to expect whilst being our guests. We firmly believe that whilst you might be in the middle of the remotest part of Africa, where other tourists are a rare sight, there should be no compromise on the quality of our food. The food is all only sourced from local farms in the area and the nearest town, including fresh local vegetables and artisanal cheeses and sausages, and we serve the best of Tanzanian wine that is grown a 3-hour drive away. We offer a hearty breakfast, packed lunches for your game drives, and splendid evening meals on the terrace in front of the waterhole. As the animals come to take the last drink of the day, you get to watch the sun setting behind the mountains in the distance. Frequent visitor mammal species in camp are the yellow baboon, greater and lesser kudu, zebra, impala, Cape buffalo, sable antelope, silverback jackal, klipspringer, African civet, warthog, giraffe, bush pig, leopard, hyena, African wild dog, and occasionally roaming lion, and the little beasts like the lesser galago, tree hyrax, both white-tailed and banded mongoose, plus all types of moles and field mice, etc. And of course, the elephant. It really is an enchanting spot to be. Providing a waterhole near our bar and restaurant area with cool fresh water pumped up by solar from deep underground helps the elephants to avoid the long walk around the mountain to the nearest village and river, and the temptation to raid crops whilst there. Occasionally you will see a couple of our resident bull elephants drinking from our non-chlorinated plunge pool. Their trunks are just long enough to reach the fresh water. This pool is also a refreshing place to be after a long hot day in the park. Our restaurant and bar area offer excellent views out over the waterhole and park, built in the local style. Our comfortable little safari camp awaits you. The feel of Hodi Hodi is that of having your own tented home, where you can unpack, unwind, and set up your base camp. Take a breath and enjoy the wildest Africa. The camp has 5 twin or double tent huts and 2 family suites for travelling family and friends to be together. A total of 18 guests can be accommodated, making it a small and intimate place to make your Ruaha base. The 5 twin or double tent huts are comfortably furnished with solar power and hot water, for individuals or couples. All have magnificent views down the valley towards the west and the sunset. Each tent hut has its own flushing toilet, hot and cold running water, and a shower. The back of these huts are built in brick and they sit on the hillside, whilst the rest is suspended out on stilts above the ground. They have thatched roofs of local grass, and stepping inside you are met with a 180-degree view through the mosquito netting of the tented fronts and sides, and you'll see how this location speaks for itself. The balconies all command breathtaking views over the plains to the park. The flooring is made from locally sourced teak. The walls are traditional canvas like a tent, and a zip opening door out onto the private balcony where you can watch the animals passing below. Inside, there are USB phone charging ports, bedside tables with lamps and fans. Each comfortable room has its own twin wash basins, a writing desk, wardrobes to hang your clothes, a laundry basket should you need any washing done. The internal doors lead to the bathroom that has its own access out onto the deck. The deck has a sitting area that is set above the animals and has a view to the distant mountains and beyond. Each of the 5 twin double tent huts are carefully spaced out along the hillside in order to provide privacy. Rooms 1 to 5 are all over 25 meters apart and are named after the nearest trees: African chestnut, the bush willow, winter thorn, jackalberry, and the clusterleaf. The 2 family suites are on the other side of the bar and restaurant, on the other hill that looks out over a myomba forest to the mountains and the hills in the distance. The layout of these family tent rooms is similar to the twin double rooms, but these have an added communal area lounge in the middle with adjoining doors. Each side has its own access out onto the deck. Rooms 6 and 7 are named Mahogany and Marula after the trees closest to them. We have a third private suite, room 8, named Myrrh, many times to be available for those with self-drive vehicles who would like an option to self-cater, such as weekend residents of Tanzania. The family rooms are also tented sides with brickbacks, are comfortably furnished. Our attentive housekeeping staff are always available if you need them. We offer apprenticeship programs for the local hotel school by training the teenagers on all aspects of hotel work, as well as encouraging their guiding skills. After an evening by the fire and after a delicious dinner, you are escorted back to your room by a Maasai guide, where you can drift off to sleep with the lullaby of the African night. Spend a few hours or a few moments at the desk in your room to tick off your list of animals spotted on the bird list that you've seen through the day on your safari or the park. Pop out onto the balcony with your binoculars to tick off the last final few things before having a refreshing wash and change before coming over to the bar and the restaurant area to get a sundowner and swap stories of the day that you've had before dinner is served on the terrace. At Hodi Hodi, we offer walking safaris from the camp. The local area is fascinating. Your guides will tell you all about the traditional people's way of life, point out animals, sport, and also explain about the properties of some of the plants and trees using traditional medicines and potions. We also have a game and bird watching hide that overlooks a chem, which is a natural spring, where you can sit quietly and wait for the visitors to show up. Sunsets are what we favour most at Hodi Hodi. It spells the end of an exciting day, the chance to relax and reflect on what has happened that day whilst the evening dinner is being prepared in the kitchen by our chefs. Ruaha National Park and our concession on its edge has an ever-changing landscape and a wide variety of animals and thankfully precious few other tourists. Experiences and activities are, of course, short game drives into the park for the Ruaha National Park, whole day trips with a picnic, driver lunch guide, game viewing and exploring the beautiful changing scenery. We offer those bushwalks around 200 acres we have available. An experienced guide will show you the birds, the insects, the plants, game tracks and maybe more. We also offer the opportunity for you to do a fly camp, that's wild camping, a night out alone under the stars in a little canvas tent, your private little safari, your personal chef and campfire cooking. There is hot air ballooning in the park. It requires an early start. It's an exhilarating ride and a beautiful view out over the Mwagusi River, and then a champagne full breakfast in the bush. We also offer evening game drives on our land. Bush drive follows by a private sundowner cocktail in the bush and a night drive home for dinner. We also offer cultural experiences. You can visit our local village and school to take learning gifts, visit bush beekeeping farm and drop into the Maasai market. We also offer 4x4 self-drive. After a short lesson in driving vintage Land Rovers off-road, you can go off on your own with a GPS and a radio to keep in touch with base, a picnic lunch and miles of savannah to explore. Do your own safari. You're in charge today. Ruaha can be visited at any time of the year, but it is a classic dry season park, best enjoyed from June to December. Game gets progressively more concentrated towards the end of the season when the traditional water sources dry up in the green season. From January to May, the park transforms into a lush and dazzling Eden. You have a haven for specialist visitors such as botanists, entomologists and ornithologists. With baobab-studded hills, rocky escarpments and all-season rivers, Ruaha has reliable game concentrations including lion, elephant and buffalo herds, all the usual East African mammals as well as the uncommon greater and lesser kudu and sable and roan antelope. There are as well more than 500 different bird species, including several endemic varieties to the Ruaha Park alone. We're offering a slow safari. Unpack, stay a while, soak it in, sit on your deck, gaze at the views that leave you speechless, walk out into the bush with a guide whose ancestors have lived nearby for centuries, following equally ancient game tracks, traversing high forested ridges, dropping into wide acacia plains, riverbeds, over baobab-studded rocky slopes, and inhale the feeling and the thrill of the full sensory rush. And after a game drive in the Ruaha Park, returning to a cooling swim, a sundowner and a flickering campfire, and the best safari food, dazzling starry skies, listening to the wildest Africa at night, and feeling the calm peace descending. Our local community in the village of Makifu on the other side of the mountain from us is where we have invested in various projects, from replacing the roof on their primary school, building a house for their doctor, building a headmaster's office in the secondary school, digging water wells, as well as employing people and purchasing supplies from their micro-businesses and markets. It is essential for us to leave a light footprint from heavy respect. Conservation partnering, buying and employing locally. Our area borders the park with 200 acres extending now to cover 18 square kilometers of pristine wilderness, agreed with our community beyond the mountains, who regularly patrol, compensated with jobs, training, education and health projects. We always look forward to sharing our community experience, the camp and the park with our visitors. So finally, thank you, and we look forward to greeting your guests.